Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome! Today I will be breaking down the Persistent Universe Monthly Report, letting you know all the work over the last month. These videos are made possible thanks to my very generous patrons and channel members, so thank you so much to you guys. And if you do want to support the channel further, all the links are in the description below. Plus, if you do enjoy my content, please consider hitting that subscribe button and helping the channel to grow. So kicking off with animation, the team worked on several different life animations, including those for vendors, searching behaviors, emergency reactions when in usables, civilian reactions to threats, medical revival, guarding and security, searching bodies, and reactions to dead bodies. They also worked on the tour guide and tourist for Invictus, supported a few new vehicles, and built testing rigs for 2 creature types and a salvage weapon. So animation have been really busy there for a lot of these different types of AI. It will be incredible to see specifically these creatures finally moving and animating. I do wonder which 2 types the rigs are for. My guess would probably be the space whale and maybe that Boreal stalker, but that is just a guess. Let me know what you think in the comments below. For character art, the team wrapped up new assets for Orison. The concept artists worked on civilians, vendors, and gangs for the Pyro system, while the character artists progressed with 3 armor sets and generic backpacks. So moving on to environment art, the LZ team continued to work on Orison with it nearing completion, with the final polish, tweaks, and LOD passes remaining before sign-off, so it's very close to being completed. The modular team progressed with final art on the first set of Outpost content, with planning ongoing to define the next step of content after the initial exploratory set is done, with the intention to provide a variety across the various outposts. Now I think they are planning to implement these outposts, these specific colonial outposts, on Pyro's moons and planets, not in the Stanton system, so we may not see them in game until we get Pyro, but I do hope that we will see one day Stanton populated with a variety of NPC homes and settlements and villages. Maybe not in the same style as these colonial ones, maybe using different materials. We will see. Anyway, the modular team is also beginning to integrate crawl spaces into existing content, plus they are close to finalizing the look of the jump point gas cloud, with attention being paid to the center where the actual jump point is located. They must be getting close with Pyro now. Everything's coming together from all these different areas, and I personally, if I was to guess, I would expect we will see Pyro debut for maybe this CitizenCon presentation. I wouldn't be surprised. The planet content team is focused on planets for the Nyx system, with the team saying, "We keep experimenting with fresh new biomes and asset packs. We want Nyx to look unique so that our most adventurous citizens get a satisfying experience exploring these new lands." Very happy to hear that. An additional new harvestable was completed to populate Pyro as well. Now in Montreal, the modular team finished their first locations, putting the finishing touches on the new Babbage and Orison Hospital. They then moved on to further hospital locations for Lawville and Area 18, alongside clinics for Grimhex and various space stations. The team is working as efficiently as possible, they say, to maximize the number of locations available once medical gameplay goes live. So far, the speed at which this team is currently working is pretty exciting to see. It will be interesting to see how things turn out as they build their staff members and move on to other areas of the game, but I think working on hospitals is more of a way to onboard the Montreal team into Star Citizen or CIG's best practices, the tools they use, and so on and so forth. So the ship art team completed the constellation Taurus, finally, which moved into the release prep stage, with focus now on finishing the complicated LODs or level of details, landing gear and signed distance field shields, after which it'll move to QA for polish and bug fixing. Last month, work begun on the Crusader Ares, with the teams reviewing the white box. There are a few remaining tasks before it can be signed off, but art has also moved to the grey box stage. Art and Design scheduled the production kickoff for the Drake Vulture, which is expected to begin early June, so maybe around this time. Hopefully it has begun already and we can start seeing it appear on maybe Inside Star Citizen sprint reports, or maybe a feature as it travels through the pipeline. I do own this ship and I do love Drake. A previously unannounced ship made great progress, with it just needing the final lighting pass and general polish for the interior to be wrapped up, while the exterior requires technical damage, exterior lighting, and a general polish pass. Once done, it'll then move on to TechAd. Plus, work has begun on a brand new ship, which will be revealed later this year. There is so much going on there. It could be maybe the 400i. It could also be this Jean hauler, but there's also this Argo raft ship that I think the leaks have been talking about, so could be either of these. Do let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. It looks like we're going to start getting some more ships pretty soon. Now, the ship team has 2 ships working their way through the gold standard process, where they incorporate the latest features and generally improve older vehicles, just like what we saw with the Gladius. Now, the Aegis Saber is one of them, nearing the end of its process, while the Retaliator is well underway, but still has a lot left to do. The work done so far on the Retaliator includes widening the doors and tight corridors to allow better AI navigation, and repositioning the lifts and the airlocks in the central room, which is quite interesting. I do wonder where they're repositioning them to, because they are already in the central room, I believe. Anyway, time was also spent on R&D looking into wear and dirt, as well as further optimizing ship exteriors. So moving on to the weapon art team, they continued to focus on bugs and polish, and they supported the Tumbril Nova's main cannon. Once complete, they then moved the Grey Cat salvaging tool to first pass rigging, using the weapon as a training asset for the rigging process. Now, the white box mining gadgets were also iterated on, with an early block out before it moved on for a concept pass. So next up, we have character and weapon features. Now, as part of the next actor status iteration, the character and weapon features team worked on medical support gameplay, and when complete, players will be able to equip a dedicated healing item, this dedicated tool which we have seen, that allows them to scan other players or NPCs to see their vitals, including per limb statuses. Now, significant work, they say, went into allowing this information to be displayed as an augmented reality overlay on the target player or NPC, and if the player is close enough to the target character, they can then use the same item to administer a combination of drugs via a short-range beam, which is significantly more effective than the existing med pens, and can actually be further enhanced by tweaking the levels of drugs administered. Now, alongside this dedicated healing tool, the healing beam attachment for the multi-tool will also be an option, further increasing the multi-tool's versatility, but both tools can be used to self-heal, but only the dedicated tool offers the user the ability to manually tweak the drug levels, with the med pen being capable of either treating oneself or other players and NPCs. Now, to help see when a player is severely injured, the features team have put the final touches to the first Hurt Locomotion set, which replaces the normal locomotion base asset with an entirely new set of motion captured idle and movement animations, and additional visuals are layered on top, predominantly to help communicate the hurt motion to first person view, such as a slight lowering of equipped weapons and minor increases in head bobbing. Now, the more I hear about the medical gameplay, it is getting better and better, so you'll be able to scan players and NPCs, see what is wrong with them, and then decide how much healing they'll need and administer that. What is cool about this is, even with the initial implementation, it will be far less linear than I was expecting. I think you will need to get the levels correct, otherwise you could cause more harm than good, but I can just imagine after a firefight, or even let's say an explosion while mining, and you have many crew members that are injured. Now, although these injuries may be only very basic to start with, the medic will need to triage the injured and then treat each one accordingly. Of course, as the system progresses, there will be many more types and other types of injuries and ailments that will need to be diagnosed, identified and treated with all manner of medical equipment. And what we can see from even the first implementation is this will have quite a lot of depth to it, but they're also future-proofing the system to allow for great expansion. So really excited that that is coming in. I think it's coming in 3.15 now, which is a shame it's not coming in 3.14, but around September time, we should be getting our hands on it. Now, moving on to gameplay features, the team spent time looking into must-fix issues, and they worked on upcoming initiatives, including the Player Asset Manager app, and last month saw the app successfully pull in all of the inventory items that a player owns, with the new inventory API that was delivered by the core tech team. Now, this allows the teams to asynchronously pull in data from multiple sources so that it can be displayed in the UI, and gameplay features are currently in discussion with the backend teams about allowing the players to define simple query parameters such as searching for item type, while UI design wrapped up the initial concepting for the layout of the app and worked with narrative to name it. Now the team also said, "We have much of the baseline functionality in place and will hopefully be able to wrap up the majority of our remaining work in the final month of Q2. Now this is so great to hear. The Asset Manager app will allow us to basically track the state, the location, and have options for all the items that we own. Instead of them all appearing in our Mobiglass inventory, they will tell you if you have a particular weapon or armor set in this outpost or this homestead or this ship, allowing you to go and retrieve it." So the team also progressed with the cargo refactor, with planning and documentation continuing throughout the month. The engineers' work on the technical design documents is ongoing as the vision for this feature has evolved to a unified inventory API, with gameplay features working alongside actor features to unify how the inventory works in a server-meshed environment. Now, although they have yet to begin implementation, cargo touches on so many areas of existing core gameplay loops, so they need to ensure that everything is properly considered, with the team saying, "We're putting a higher premium on planning out our feature more thoroughly, which will only yield a sturdier foundation from which to build on. This is an ongoing effort to create a more stable game environment for the players that I'm sure we'd all agree is extremely important to maintain as we roll closer to a beta release." So pretty interesting to hear them even mention a beta release, although I'm sure we are still ways off from beta. It's interesting that they would mention that. Now the cargo refactor is a major piece of the whole puzzle to getting Star Citizen where it needs to be, and I'm so happy to hear they are being thorough with it and not cutting any corners. So internal testing and polishing is underway for the next dynamic event. I believe this will be the Ninetales, which they have had more QA resources dedicated to it to allow them to find any remaining edge cases so they can wrap up their work in the next few weeks. I don't think we're going to be waiting too long for this Ninetales event. The UK-based team worked on new gameplay features, including gadgets to bring additional risk-reward to mining. The feature code is now complete, and the team are working with artists on asset development for the different models. Loot generation progressed, which will spawn crates at different locations throughout the verse. Now this feature is still in code development, but is progressing well, and gameplay features hope to share more details on it in the near future. I will be very happy once we get loot populating areas. Finding items in the verse to keep will just feel great, but even more exciting when we can finally sell them back to shops. I'll just make all my money treasure hunting. Now loot generation tier 0 I think is nearing completion, with a tier 2 or tier 1 happening around now till I think it's around September, October. But selling back to shops is on the progress tracker, with work completing around early December, I think. So although we may get loot populating in areas that we can collect, we won't be able to sell it on until hopefully later this year. Now for vehicle features, some of the team worked on jump point development, which builds on the work completed from CitizenCon 2949 when we saw them jump through to Pyro, with them looking into better ways to test and collaborate on jump points with the various other teams that need to work on them. They also worked to finalize features for 314, like updating the ship HUDs, the missile operator mode, missile guidance, and the new power triangle systems, all of which missed the 313 window, so they are now in a good position, although they still need testing and integrating with other features before release. Also looking further ahead, the team worked on drunk flying and driving behaviors to go with the new intoxication mechanics. So very happy to hear that these features that slipped from 313 to 314 are moving along well, and it'll be funny as hell flying drunk in game, as if my piloting skills are not bad enough. Now for the lighting team, additional polish was given to the existing docking lobbies on R&R stations. They have also continued their full lighting pass on Orison, with the team saying that this is the most challenging landing zone so far due to the massive view distances and quality of platforms that are approachable and landable. We're putting a lot of effort into ensuring the lighting is well optimized without compromising on visual quality. And I will say so far what we have seen, or what I have seen, looks incredible. It won't be long now till we will be walking around this new landing zone. So moving on to the narrative team, they continued to sync with design on the organizations that players will be able to work for, which they said led to a list of new and existing companies and types of missions they could offer. Now they say the goal is to ensure that they cover the various areas of gameplay at a variety of levels for a satisfying feeling of progression. Yes please. Now, additional work was also done to create a cohesive character sheet for PU characters, which aims to consolidate the various disciplines into a single place where developers can see what's expected of a character from a visual standpoint. Then they look at a script and they can see what type of environment they're meant to exist in. Sounds like a pretty clever approach. The props team wrapped up their pass on hospitals, producing a variety of generic high-tech props, along with a few bespoke to each landing zone. They also worked to get medical beds working correctly as well, and hopefully one of these days we will see these medical beds usable in ships like the Apollo and eventually the Endeavour. So for QA, the testing has ramped up for Alpha 3.14's features, plus many supported various feature teams. For AI, they tested behaviours used throughout Invictus and the PU in general, focusing on the onboard AI and capital ship behaviours, and once released, testing then went back to sanity checks, reproducing and investigating issues and providing feedback. So support was given to the engine team for minimum spec PC stress testing, along with tests to catch any memory leaks. Also, automated test cases were created to run through the checks that they need to perform more efficiently, which is great to hear that they are testing these low spec PCs, because although Star Citizen does have this sort of facade of needing a monster PC to play, it would be nice for people with minimum spec PCs to at least be able to play it somewhat at all. But anyway, finally, the QA continued to test DataForge, Star Words, Excel Core, Copy Build, and the Sandbox editor for the tools team. Now, for systemic services and tools, work wrapped up on the Super P cache for the next release, while new services such as the AI info and NPC creation services were iterated on. The stability of systemic services was also improved for Invictus, allowing the team to handle player concurrency without taxing the services. So this Super P cache is basically iCache, it's just another name for it, and hopefully this means that the persistent streaming will be in the next release, so 3.14, and we should hopefully see a lot of benefits from that. What we will see out of the door, I don't know though. Finally, progress was made on server meshing, with emphasis on a new hybrid service that will accommodate the feature's needs. Ever progressing on server meshing, I wonder how close they are now. So on with Tech Animation, their quarterly deliverables and long-standing initiatives progressed well throughout May, and the team also invested time into R&D around their animation pipeline and exporting process, with the team saying, "Both are bedrocks to our team and now have many nice to have features that the tech animation and animation teams have discussed for a long time." They also spent time clearing up several animation bugs in-game, implemented animations for Invictus, and worked alongside the art team for asset skinning too. So Turbulent last month performed long due maintenance to the launcher as well as a few evolutions. They also improved the performance of the Entity Graph performance tool. The game services team supported the release of 3.13.1, fixing issues relating to persistence in long-term persistence, as well as modifying entity naming for the M50 ship to fix an issue where it wasn't appearing. The team also worked on documentation and handed over the fleet management and config services to publishing. However, now most of the team's capacity is focused on server meshing and will be for the foreseeable future. Very happy to hear that. It sounds like they are really ramping up the employees for server meshing and hiring many others to get this super important piece of tech implemented. Now, the vehicle tech team put the finishing touches on the vehicle radar and scanning experience, getting the UI-centric improvements integrated into the code base to ensure smooth delivery for 3.14. Finally, improvements were made to the door elevator and control panels as well, which gives finer control over multiple doors and ensures the interior and exterior control panels communicate with each other. And finally, on to visual effects. They made a start on Orison's effects, including falling and blowing cherry blossoms, water features and holographic displays, plus work kicked off on the medical healing beam effects, and vehicle radar ping effects were finished. VFX also continued to develop the fire hazards, specifically focusing on visualizing how different types of propagation might look in a futuristic spaceship. For example, should they burn the same way as a wooden hut would? And finally, with the much anticipated new particle lighting system added into the game builds, the artists began sweeping through all existing effects to allow them to take advantage of the new lighting settings. So there you have it. Now, I have not included the graphics of VFX programming, engine, or the AI content features and tech information because that is already covered in the Squadron 42 report. And it's just very much copy paste from one to the next. And this video is already going to be 20 minutes long. So if you want to catch up on the engine stuff, the graphics stuff, and the AI stuff, I highly suggest watching the Squadron 42 monthly report as there is some really cool information in that. But with that said, that is the PU monthly report for May. If you do enjoy my videos, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to hang out with me and my amazing community over on twitch.tv/supermacbrothers Ryan, you are all more than welcome. We often play the game, discuss the game, and just have a good time. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it really helps the channel out. And if you want to be notified when my videos go live, tick that little notification bell. Again, huge thank you to my patrons and channel members for all of their support. Cannot do this without you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.